Prophet Isaac and Jacob, the birth of the 12 tribes of Israel. The desert winds whispered through the tents of Canaan, carrying with them the legacy of a promise, the covenant made between God and Abraham. Years had passed since the miracle of Abraham's son, Isaac, whose birth brought laughter to an old couple who had once given up hope. Isaac, in Hebrew Yitzhak, meaning he will laugh, was the child of the covenant, destined to carry forward the divine mission that began with his father. Isaac grew up in a household of faith, surrounded by the stories of his father's trials and the voice of a God who spoke through the silence of the desert. Abraham taught him the meaning of trust that never faltered, even in the face of impossible tests. When Abraham passed away, the mantle of the covenant passed to Isaac, and the destiny of a nation flowed through his blood. Isaac married a woman named Rebekah, a kind and faithful woman chosen through divine guidance. Their union was blessed, yet for many years they remained without children. Just as his mother Sarah once did, Rebekah prayed with all her heart and God answered. She conceived twin sons whose struggle began even before birth. Inside her womb, the two children seemed to wrestle, and Rebekah sought guidance from God. The answer came. 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples shall be separated from your body, one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. When the time came, the firstborn emerged covered with red hair. They named him Esau. Moments later came his twin, grasping his brother's heel. They named him Jacob, Yaqub, meaning he who follows. As the boys grew, their differences became clear. Esau loved the wilderness, hunting and living by his instincts. Jacob, quiet and thoughtful, preferred the tents, a thinker, a dreamer, a man of patience. Isaac favored Esau, the hunter. Rebekah loved Jacob, the gentle-hearted. But destiny had already chosen Jacob for a greater purpose, the continuation of the covenant. One day, Esau returned from hunting, exhausted and starving. Jacob was cooking lentil stew. Esau begged for food, and Jacob said softly, "Sell me your birthright." Driven by hunger, Esau replied, "I am dying, what good is my birthright to me?" And with that careless exchange, he sold his inheritance for a bowl of stew, a moment that changed history. Years later, when Isaac had grown old and blind, he called Esau to bless him as the firstborn. But Rebekah remembered God's prophecy that the younger would inherit the promise. She helped Jacob disguise himself as Esau, covering his arms with goat skin and preparing a meal for his father. Isaac, deceived by the touch and smell, placed his trembling hands on Jacob's head and said, "May God give you the dew of heaven, the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. May nations serve you, and may you be master over your brothers." When Esau discovered what had happened, anger burned within him. "I will kill my brother," he swore. Fearing his wrath, Jacob fled from home and journeyed north to live with his uncle Laban in Haran, the same land Abraham once left behind. There Jacob's life took a new turn. He fell in love with Rachel, Laban's younger daughter, beautiful and full of grace. Jacob agreed to work 7 years to marry her, but Laban deceived him, giving him his elder daughter Leah instead. To marry Rachel, Jacob worked another 7 years, 14 in total, all for love. Through Leah, Rachel, and their maidservants, Jacob became the father of 12 sons, each destined to form a tribe, the 12 tribes of Israel. Their names would echo across history. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. From them the entire nation of Israel would rise. But Jacob's story was far from over. On his way back to Canaan after many years, he feared meeting his brother Esau again. One night, alone by the river Jabbok, Jacob wrestled with a mysterious being, a man, an angel, or perhaps the very Spirit of God. They struggled until dawn. As the sun rose, the being touched Jacob's hip, wounding him, but Jacob refused to let go. "I will not release you until you bless me," he said. And the angel replied, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed." From that moment, Jacob became Israel, the father of the nation that would bear his name. His descendants, the children of Israel, would inherit the covenant that began with Abraham. They would face slavery, exile, and miracles, but the promise would never fade. Jacob later reunited with Esau, Instead of revenge, the two brothers embraced, ending years of pain. Jacob settled in Canaan with his large family, tending flocks and raising his sons. Among them, one stood out, Joseph, the beloved child of his old age, whose destiny would soon carry the Israelites into Egypt. As Jacob grew old, he gathered his sons and blessed each according to their future. He reminded them of God's promise, the covenant that must never be forgotten. When his time came, Jacob asked to be buried beside his father Isaac and grandfather Abraham in the cave of Machpelah. And there, the patriarchs rested, 3 generations bound by one faith and one promise. Thus ended the era of the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the spiritual founders of the Yahudi people. From their tents in the deserts of Canaan, a nation was being born, a nation chosen not for power or wealth, but for its faith, its endurance, and its eternal connection to the God of Abraham. End of story 2, Prophet Isaac and Jacob, the birth of the 12 tribes of Israel. Next will be story 3, Prophet Joseph, from the pit to power in Egypt, a tale of betrayal, patience, and destiny.